So I hope that all makes sense for you. Now we're going to talk about our financial planning topic. So I'm going to share my screen with you here. All right, I thought it was important to talk about financial planning, and you'll see here. But today we're going to talk about financial planning, the financial planning process and tools. Because, this is a difficult time and people have a lot of questions. We're not getting any clear guidance one way or the other on how we should be reacting, investing. Should we, the large companies say, we're not investing in stocks. Well, we're investing in stocks. We're not investing in bonds. We're investing in bonds. So who do you follow? There was who I missed? There was RiverSource or Riverfront as far as the analyst report, but they have now turned a more pessimistic approach. But so the question is really, who do you believe? How do you handle it? And I talked about asset allocation, account segmentation, and principal protection. So in my opinion, they're really the foundation. You build, you use other tools around it, but they're the foundation that you need. But it's all based on the planning. One of the things that sometimes can be challenging for us and for clients of ours is that we take time in our process. So we have this 8-week process you can see here that we've developed over the years, and that's ideal. Sometimes that 8 weeks draws out a bit because we're waiting for information or waiting, particularly if life insurance is part of the plan. Sometimes that gets delayed because it's nearly impossible, in my opinion, to make sound investment decisions. And I would say impossible without having your plan in place. And the reason you want your plan in place is for times like this, because, just as a reminder, I did, 4 years in the Air Force, military police, 21 years altogether in law enforcement. We were always taught that when the stuff hits the fan and and it could be life or death, obviously, in the military and law enforcement, but you rely on your training and experience. So there's all kinds of examples about that. And that's why if I go to the shooting range, I still do exactly what I did all those years. It's that muscle memory. You want that same kind of approach. You want that training, that annual financial planning process is your training. And then as the years go by, that's your experience, is that when you can say, okay, I get this. I don't have to panic. I can be concerned, but hopefully I'm not panicking. You want to make sure that things are getting taken care of for you and that you're on track. That makes sense. You don't have to wait for your year, of course, for most people to go through this financial planning process. If you want to review, an update intra-year, this might be a reasonable time for that. So, but you should, of course, go through this process every single year. So let's talk. So that lays your foundation, your planning foundation. You have your investment foundation, and then you can, derive some comfort from that. Our phones aren't blowing up, and they haven't been all year because, again, we're holding a lot of cash. That's helpful to people. That no one's had to sell positions that I can think of at any losses to fund their needs. So that's all positive, of course. So let's talk about the 8-week process. So you can find that on our website at any time, but I'm going to go through it with you. So let me tell you how I got here. So if you log on to attleborowealth.com and you go to services, you'll see financial planning here, and you'd click into there. And this is my quote: planning should be the primary driver for lifetime success. Otherwise, it's just luck. So the website developer, we were talking and they like that, so they put that in there. But I list here, the code of ethics as a certified financial planner. I, of course, think it's important. When you go talking about your team, I talked about the CPA before and how that CPA can save you time, frustration, and money. I believe that your financial advisor should be a certified financial planner. There's a lot of good reasons for that. You can actually click through to this piece, why you should choose a certified financial planner practitioner. This is the most difficult designation to get in our industry when it comes to financial planning. You've got to attend a bunch of classes, pass many tests just to be able to sit for the comprehensive exam, and only about 50% of the people at any given time pass that comprehensive exam because it shows that you have proficiency in what you've studied. There are other programs out there that have different initials after their names that may sound like CFP or have another initial rather than a CFP, but what they're all missing is either the immense volume of the material, or the testing to show that you understand that material and you can apply it. The CFP requires that comprehensive exam for proficiency, and now that you present a financial plan. So, and of course, the code of ethics is very, very important. So we hear a lot about fiduciary, acting as a fiduciary, and they put it right in here: act in the client's best interest. No messing around with that. And I think that's very, very important. I once sat down with a prospective client, and she told me she had her financial advisor who worked at, one of the big firms. And she said, she asked the person if he was a fiduciary, and the person's response was, well, and gave her a long answer. And she said, I'm still not sure. And I said, well, that just means no. If you can't just say yes, then the answer is no. So I put in here a pretty good description, I think, of what to expect, and the items that addressed during that 8-week process. Of course, goals and objectives, investments, tax, of course, insurance, not just life insurance and long-term care, but we look at disability insurance, your property and casualty insurance, your liability insurance, and then wills and estates. Help you review your wills and see if they need to be updated. That other part of that team should be a highly skilled, I believe, very competent attorney. Probably for most people, that should be someone who focuses on elder law as well, because most of the folks we work with are, above 60. And at some point, if you're not elderly now, you either have parents who are, or you're going to be at some point, and you want to develop that relationship. So we'll review wills, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, trusts. Had a phone call with a client's attorney yesterday discussing very complex trust strategies, and we kind of went in a different direction after that. So these conversations and this team approach really helps, because you want everybody working in the direction for you. And then I laid out a typical 8-week process. So these are typically 1 to 2 hour meetings, and this first meeting, so we have the general consensus meeting, right? Identify the needs and goals, and this is how we're going to go through the process, and that we're going to, we do the engagement form so everybody understands what their responsibilities are and what they're doing. Client receives a lot of documents to complete, including a expense spreadsheet that we've developed over the years that you can still access on this website for the period of time, for probably for the next few months anyway. A financial planning questionnaire. Also, you can access that here, but there's a lot of information that we need from the clients. And then we gather that information during this break week, right? So you've got meeting 1, week 1, meeting, or week 2 is when we're all doing our homework. Clients getting us information, we're going through that information. And then the third week, typically the meeting 2 happens. This is where we come to you and say, okay, this is what we've received. Let's make sure that we understand it correctly, and we're all on the same page. And this is often, well, you said that you spend $10,000 a month. We're seeing here it's $12,000 a month. Or is that difference correct? Or do we need to make adjustments? Or, so there's often things like that. Or, if there's real estate properties, cars, it can just be so many things. Major expenditures, we want to understand those. Many people are, taking care of their home improvements or getting their houses ready for sale, whatever it might be in that time going towards retirement or during retirement. And we want to understand those major things: weddings, celebrations, and all that fun stuff. In week number 4, we identify potential issues, risk, and develop solutions. And we go through that. Now we understand everything together, and then we're preparing for our solutions meeting. So week 5, meeting 3 is what we call our solutions meeting. And in that meeting, this is where we typically come and say, okay, this is how we think things should be done. This is what your investments should look like. This is what your Roth conversion should look like. This is how life insurance should be laid out for you, if that's what makes sense. And we get to that next step, and then we either then from there it's either go, no go, we make adjustments, whatever we need to do. After that, we typically present the findings for the client's secondary focus. Often that is the estate planning, but that could move up to the front. Some people come to us and say, first things first, I need to get my wills and estates in order. And we focus on that first. So there's a primary concern for most retirees. It's, do I have enough to live off of? How best to fund my accounts? How best to withdraw my accounts? And can I be tax efficient? So that's the primary focus for most people. Secondary, we go through the estate planning process or any other focus that they have. So, and then from there, of course, it's so we wrap that up. And then from there, it's implementation of everything and monitoring. Monitor it throughout the year. And then we do it all over again a year later. So it doesn't have to take 8 weeks in that second year. Sometimes we get it done in a month or just 2 meetings. Oftentimes we do, because we already have the information and we're just checking in at that point. But it doesn't mean that it's any less important, because there are often major changes between 2021 and 2022 and 2023 and on down the road. So it's really, really important. And there are some files that you can grab off of the website here. If you want to look at our expense spreadsheet, confidential financial planning questionnaire, or this information from the CFP board. Now, part of that is also we set up your online access. And I have here, clients will know what this is, but this is Frank and Joanna Miller. This is a sample client. I'm not going to share anybody's client, but this is your e-money client access. So what most people like about this, and this is our financial planning portal that is available for everybody, and this is the client view. There are many things here that you'll see. There's some goals listed here. You'll see, of course, there's accounts listed here. I like to look at the investments up here in the financial or the e-money portal, and you can just see, you can just see what's going on, how things have grown or not. You can go into any investments and see what the holdings are. If you want to look at allocations, you can do that to see how you're allocated. If you want to do some analysis, you can, to see how the accounts have performed. You can look at transactions. This would have to be pulled in from the custodian. So all that is important. This vault is very helpful for all of us. I hope I'm sharing. I see a question. Doug, I'll come back to that, Doug. Doug's got a question about what the cost of the process is. Good question. So then this vault this only shows one, because this is a sample client, but really what you typically see is many files in there. So the vault is someplace where you can upload documents and have access for you and for us. So anything you want to share with us, you put in here. So that's obviously secure because we all log in to get there. But we also will set up a folder for your taxes, your tax forms, your wills and trusts, any other thing you'd want in there, and anything other thing that applies. People like this because of, with most couples, there's one person who kind of drives the bus. You might both be involved. Some people are just completely separated from it, but there's usually one person who guides things. And what people like about this kind of online access is that you've got one place to go for everything, and folks like that. So the report section is also great, because this is where you can just see how everything is. Now, it opens up with your balance sheet, but that's a good place to start too. Frank and Joanna here, they have $3.3 million in assets, but after their liabilities are $2.8 million. So that's helpful. Some banks ask for that. It's nice to have that. Cash flow is another area where we spend a lot of time, and this shows the income that's coming in, any planned distribution. So that's what we're telling the plan to push out, total expenses, planned savings, whether you have a positive cash flow over here or a negative cash flow. You're often negative cash flow in retirement, and that's okay, because this is what you've saved your money for. Our goal, of course, is zero, right? But we don't want to push out more money than we need, for sure. So there's a lot you could spend just days in this report section to see what makes, what's best for you. And most clients tag a few reports that they reference all the time. Income tax is an important one. So this is in this example here, we start with a tax inefficient portfolio and make it a tax efficient portfolio. And you really just flip this around, because here you got this mountain chart where Frank and Joanna are, and we just want to flip that around, fill this up, and then have them at very low or no taxes in the future. So it's 10:44. I hope that information was helpful. The financial planning process, again, gives you that foundation so that you can look at these things, go through it with your advisor, your planner, and make sure that you're on track, even given what's going on. I will honestly tell you that increasing interest or inflation rates, as we did in our financial plans, to 3.5% on average, and decreasing the assumptions for investments over the next several years, has caused some plans to have problems, and we have to address those problems. And that's important. It's just as important to know what potential issues are as it is to know that everything's okay. So that plan gives you that foundation and that guiding, kind of that light to follow. Of course, the investment foundation is just as important. Asset allocation, principal protection, and account segmentation. I've talked about that a lot. Doug, to answer your question, so it depends. Most clients, we typically don't work with clients under $1 million, as you probably know. For those clients, the financial planning process is included with everything. So that's a comprehensive agreement that we have, and we include financial planning, the 8-week process, tax efficient planning, with all that. If you have less than $1 million, or you just want us to do planning, the planning fee starts at $5,000 and it goes up from there. So probably the most expensive plan I've ever done is $25,000. A good average is probably $7,500, but it just all depends on the complex nature of the plan. But good question. Thank you. What we strive for, and what really we require, is it has to be fair. The plans, that's where all the work is. That's all the time. I once presented to a few hundred financial planners in, I think it was Dallas, Texas, and there was an investment firm called SEI who was on stage before me, and SEI had talked about some studies that had been done that put the value of investment management for clients at 0.25%. Now we know that the industry charges 1% or more. So what this investment manager just told the entire room was that most of you are overcharging. So that was a really good segue for me, because I came up after and I referenced that, and there were a lot of grumblings in the audience. And I said, so where the value is and what we do is, from a fee point of view, a small amount in the investments are just as important to the success of the plan, but from a fee point of view, it's relatively small, 0.25% out of 1%. But the remainder of that fee goes toward, having a solid plan, having an executable plan, monitoring that plan. Your tax efficient strategy, often we save people millions of dollars over their lifetime by being tax efficient in their strategies, and there's no fee in the world that could make that up, right? So there's just tremendous value in this work. So I hope that makes sense. All right, folks, it's 10:48. I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week. And if you need to contact me in the meantime, you have my email address. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.